Rich businesswoman humiliated the building's cleaning lady in front of everyone. At the shareholders' meeting, a brown envelope made her lose her entire empire. In the bustling heart of New York City, Aurora Sinclair sat at the head of a sleek, glass conference table, surrounded by her team of executives. The room buzzed with the energy of ambition and the clatter of laptops. Aurora's fingers danced over the keys of her laptop, her sharp blue eyes scanning the sales reports displayed on the large screen. She was a woman who thrived on success, each quarter's numbers a testament to her relentless drive. Today, however, she was particularly confident. The latest figures showed a significant increase in sales, and she was poised to present them at the upcoming shareholders' meeting. "Look at these numbers," she announced, her voice resonating with authority. "If we maintain this trajectory, we'll outpace last year's revenue by a significant margin. I want everyone to be prepared to answer questions about our strategy. We need to demonstrate that we're not just riding a wave, but creating one." Her team nodded, eager to please, impressed by her unwavering confidence. But beneath her polished exterior lay a ruthless ambition that often overshadowed her humanity. She leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smirk playing on her lips. "We'll show them what true leadership looks like. No one can touch us when we're on top." Meanwhile, in the same building, Clara Mendez was pushing her cart down the hall, her thoughts far from corporate strategies and soaring profits. The sound of her cleaning supplies clinking together was a stark contrast to the lively discussions in the boardroom. Clara was a woman of resilience, working tirelessly as a janitor to provide for her daughter, Sophia, who had been struggling with health issues that drained their meager savings. As she scrubbed the floor, her mind wandered to dreams of a better life, one where Sophia could be free from the burden of illness and worry. "Mommy, when will I be able to play outside again?" Sophia's voice echoed in her mind, a haunting reminder of the life Clara wished she could give her. She sighed, wiping a bead of sweat from her brow. "I'm doing this for you, Sophia," she whispered to herself, determination flickering in her chest. As Clara moved through the building, she couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between her life and that of those who worked in the high-rise offices. The laughter of her co-workers, who rarely acknowledged her presence, was often drowned out by the booming commands of the executives above. Today, however, she would soon become an unwilling participant in the growing divide between the powerful and the powerless. In the boardroom, Aurora's voice cut through the air like a blade, her tone sharp and unyielding. "I expect everyone to step up their game. We cannot afford any distractions or sloppiness." Her eyes narrowed as she caught sight of Clara entering the room with her cleaning supplies, oblivious to the tense atmosphere. The janitor's presence was a mere blip on her radar, a necessary nuisance in a world where appearances mattered more than the people maintaining them. "Clara," Aurora snapped, catching the woman's attention. "Do you mind being a little quieter? Some of us are trying to work here. It's a bit hard to focus with your cart clattering around." The word struck Clara like a physical blow. She froze, her heart racing in her chest. It was not the first time she had been addressed in such a manner, but it pierced her just as deeply as before. She looked up, meeting Aurora's piercing gaze, which was filled with disdain. "I'm sorry, Miss Sinclair. I'll be more careful," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Good," Aurora replied, dismissing her with a wave of her hand. "Just remember that we all have jobs to do. Yours is to keep this place clean, not to disrupt our work." The executives exchanged glances, some smirking at the exchange, while others were visibly uncomfortable. Clara felt the heat rising in her cheeks, embarrassment flooding her senses. The room felt suffocating, and she wanted nothing more than to flee. As she hurriedly moved to finish her task, Clara could feel the stares of her colleagues on her back. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "You can do this," she whispered, forcing herself to focus on the task at hand. She could not afford to let Aurora's words define her, but the sting of humiliation lingered, a bitter reminder of her place in the world. Once the boardroom was empty, Clara retreated to the restroom, seeking refuge from the harshness she had just faced. She leaned against the cool tiles, splashing water on her face in an attempt to wash away the humiliation. "Why do they treat us like this?" she muttered to herself, her voice barely audible. "We're just trying to make a living." In the stillness of the bathroom, she looked at her reflection, eyes red-rimmed and hair pulled back in a hasty ponytail. She was weary, but her spirit remained intact. Steeling herself, Clara wiped her face with a paper towel and returned to her duties, determined to rise above the petty insults of those who looked down upon her. As she cleaned the boardroom, Clara's gaze fell upon a desk that had been left in disarray. Papers were strewn about, and a brown envelope lay partially hidden beneath a stack of documents. Curiosity piqued. She reached for it, feeling a strange pull towards the forgotten item. Carefully, she pulled it out and examined it. There was no label, no indication of its contents, but intuition whispered that it was important. Just a quick look, she thought, her heart racing. She opened the envelope, and her breath caught in her throat as she scanned the documents within. They were financial statements, and as she read through the figures, her stomach churned. It was clear that there were discrepancies, large sums of money unaccounted for, transactions that didn't add up. "What is this?" she gasped, her mind racing. Clara felt a mixture of dread and excitement. She knew she had stumbled upon something significant, something that could shake the very foundations of Aurora's empire. The implications were staggering, and she could hardly believe what she was seeing. Suddenly, the reality of her situation hit her hard. Clara was a janitor, a woman of modest means. What could she possibly do with this information? She could lose everything: her job, her sense of security, if she chose to expose what she had found. But then again, was it right to remain silent? The thought of Aurora's scornful words echoed in her mind, and Clara's resolve began to harden. She tucked the envelope into her uniform pocket, her heart pounding in her chest. "I can't just ignore this," she whispered, shaking her head as if to clear her thoughts. She had a daughter to think about, and the weight of her responsibilities pressed down on her. Maybe this could change everything for us. With her mind racing and her heart heavy, Clara finished her cleaning, aware that her life had just taken a turn she could never have anticipated. The envelope felt like a ticking time bomb in her pocket, and as she walked out of the boardroom, her thoughts were consumed with the possibilities that lay ahead. Little did she know, the choices she would make in the days to come would alter the course of her life and Aurora's forever. Clara Mendez leaned against the cool marble wall of the bathroom, her chest heaving as she fought back the tears that threatened to spill. The fluorescent lights buzzed above her, casting a harsh glare that only amplified the humiliation she felt. Just moments ago, she had been the target of Aurora Sinclair's biting words, her pride trampled beneath the designer heels of the imperious CEO. As she splashed water on her face, Clara closed her eyes and tried to drown out the echo of Aurora's voice. "Do you not see how much I have to deal with? If you can't do your job right, maybe you shouldn't be here at all." Aurora's disdainful tone replayed in her mind like a broken record. The other employees had stood silently, eyes averted, too afraid to intervene, while Clara had felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on her. She was just a cleaner, after all. It was a constant reminder that she was seen as less than human in the eyes of the powerful. "I am not invisible," she whispered to herself, a mantra meant to reclaim her dignity. Clara took a deep breath, steadying her racing heart. She needed to focus on her daughter, Sophia. The little girl's health issues weighed heavily on her mind, a constant worry that overshadowed her every day. With a final splash of cold water, Clara resolved that she wouldn't let this moment define her. She would fight back somehow, for Sophia's sake. As she stepped out of the bathroom, Clara's heart sank at the sight of the pristine office beyond the door. The polished wooden desks, the gleaming glass walls, the air rich with the scent of expensive cologne and fresh coffee, it all felt so foreign and unattainable. She picked up her cleaning supplies, forcing her gaze downward to avoid the prying eyes of the employees still milling about. The next few hours passed in a blur of routine. She scrubbed and dusted, her mind a whirlpool of thoughts and emotions. Clara was good at her job, but today every wipe of her cloth felt like a reflection of her worth. She longed for more, for a life where she wasn't just a ghost haunting the hallways of the Sinclair Enterprises. Finally, as the afternoon sun began to dip low in the sky, Clara entered the opulent conference room for her final task of the day. It was a space that exuded power and money, filled with sleek furniture and state-of-the-art technology. She started to tidy up, her hands moving mechanically as her thoughts drifted to Sophia. Suddenly, something caught her eye. A brown envelope lay abandoned on the large mahogany table, partially hidden under a stack of glossy reports. Curiosity piqued, Clara approached it, her heart racing. She glanced around, ensuring no one was watching. With a quick flick, she opened the envelope, revealing a series of documents. As she skimmed through the pages, her breath caught in her throat. It was a detailed report outlining suspicious financial transactions numbers that didn't add up, names that were linked to shady dealings, and signatures that bore the mark of Aurora Sinclair herself. Clara's hands trembled as she absorbed the information. This was serious. "What the hell?" she breathed, her mind racing with the implications. Clara glanced around again, her heart pounding. This was not just a mistake. It was evidence of a crime. A part of her felt exhilarated at the discovery, while another part was gripped with fear. What if she was caught with this? What if she was seen as a traitor? But then again, what if this was her opportunity to change everything? She quickly tucked the documents back into the envelope, her mind racing with thoughts of vengeance and justice. As she finished cleaning the room, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that she was holding a powerful weapon in her hands. The thrill of possibility coursed through her veins. After wrapping up her work, Clara met with Anna, her closest friend and fellow cleaner, in the small break room. The room was dimly lit, filled with the scent of stale coffee and leftover lunches. They often shared their dreams and struggles here, and Clara knew she needed to confide in Anna about what she had found. "Anna," Clara said, her voice low and urgent as she closed the door behind her, "you won't believe what I just discovered." Anna looked up from her phone, her brows furrowing with concern. "What is it? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I found something in the conference room," Clara said, her heart racing as she pulled out the envelope and laid it on the table. "It's about Aurora's company. There's fraud, Anna. Serious fraud." Anna's eyes widened as she leaned closer, her curiosity piqued. "Fraud? Are you serious? What do you mean?" Clara opened the envelope, her hands shaking slightly. "Look at this. It's all here transactions, names, signatures. It's a whole web of deceit. If this gets out, it could ruin Aurora." Anna scanned the pages, her expression shifting from disbelief to shock. "Wow, this is huge. What are you going to do with it?" Clara bit her lip, her mind racing. "I don't know. Part of me wants to take it to the press, to expose her. But what if it backfires? What if they find out I was the one who leaked it? I could lose my job, my livelihood." Anna nodded, understanding the weight of Clara's dilemma. "But think about it, Clara. You've been humiliated, and she's treated you like you're nothing. This could be your chance to turn the tables." "I know," Clara said, frustration creeping into her voice. "But it's not just about revenge. It's about Sophia. If I lose my job, I don't know how I'd pay for her treatment." Anna placed a reassuring hand on Clara's shoulder. "You have to think about what you want, Clara. Do you want to keep letting her walk all over you? Or do you want to fight back?" Clara took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. "I want to fight back, but I need to be smart about it. I can't just rush in blindly." As they discussed the options, Clara felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Perhaps this was the moment she'd been waiting for, the chance to reclaim her dignity and secure a better future for Sophia. But the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, and Clara knew she had to tread carefully. While Aurora Sinclair prepared for her upcoming shareholder meeting, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon, Clara's mind was divided. She had a decision to make, one that would define not only her future, but also the future of the woman who had made her feel so small. With the envelope still clutched tightly in her hand, Clara gazed out the window. The skyline of New York City sprawling before her, a city of dreams and ambitions, but also a city that could crush the weak beneath its heel. She was done being weak. It was time to find her voice and decide how she would wield the power she had stumbled upon. Clara stood in the cramped bathroom of the high-rise office building, the harsh fluorescent lights overhead flickering slightly as if reflecting the turmoil roiling inside her. She leaned against the cool, tiled wall, her heart racing from the humiliation she had just endured at the hands of Aurora Sinclair, the CEO who towered over her not just in status but in sheer presence. Clara had been mopping the floor when Aurora had stormed in, her heels clicking like a metronome, each step echoing with authority. "Look at this mess," Aurora had snapped, her voice dripping with disdain. "Do you even know how to clean? This is unacceptable." The words had stung Clara deeply, tearing at her dignity. She had felt small and invisible, a mere shadow in Aurora's world of power and prestige. With a deep breath, she tried to regain her composure, splashing some cold water on her face, but the sting of embarrassment lingered. It wasn't just the insult that hurt. It was a constant reminder of her place in this world, the reminder that she was, in Aurora's eyes, nothing more than a servant. As she stood there, Clara's thoughts drifted to her daughter, Sophia, whose health issues weighed heavily on her heart. Sophia needed her mother to be strong, to fight for a better life. But how could she do that when she felt so utterly powerless? The burden of her financial struggles settled on her shoulders like a heavy cloak, and Clara felt a wave of despair wash over her. But she couldn't afford to dwell on that now. She had to return to work. With a heavy heart, Clara stepped back into the office area, the scent of cleaning supplies still lingering in the air. As she continued her duties, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Her mind raced with thoughts of how she could provide for Sophia, how she could make a difference in their lives. That's when her eyes fell upon the large conference room, where the executives had just finished their meeting. The tension in the air was palpable, and Clara could hear snippets of conversations as she passed by. "Did you see the numbers? We're in trouble," one of the executives murmured. "What are we going to do about the shareholders?" Another replied, frustration evident in his tone. Clara paused, her curiosity piqued. She had always been observant, and in her line of work, she had learned to pick up on the smallest details. It was then that she noticed a brown envelope lying carelessly on the edge of the conference table. It seemed out of place, almost as if it had been forgotten in the chaos of the meeting. Her heart pounded in her chest, a mix of apprehension and intrigue coursing through her veins. Against her better judgment, Clara approached the table. The room was empty, and the silence wrapped around her like a blanket. She reached for the envelope, her fingers trembling slightly as she picked it up. The paper was thick and worn, and she could feel the weight of its contents pressing against her palm. Curiosity got the better of her, and she carefully opened it, glancing around to ensure no one was watching. Inside, she found a stack of documents filled with numbers and figures, but it was the highlighted sections that caught her eye. Clara's breath hitched in her throat as she realized what she was looking at: evidence of financial fraud. The documents detailed discrepancies in the company's accounts, suggesting that Aurora and her team had been embezzling funds. Clara felt a surge of adrenaline, a mix of fear and excitement. This information could change everything. Her mind raced with possibilities, but with each passing moment, the weight of the decision before her settled heavily on her shoulders. What should she do with this knowledge? She thought of Anna, her friend and fellow janitor, who always had a way of seeing things clearly, of breaking through the chaos of emotions and laying out the facts. Clara made her way to the break room, her heart thumping in her chest as she entered. Anna was sitting at the small table, sipping a cup of coffee, Her expression won a concern as Clara plopped down across from her. "Hey, you look like you've seen a ghost." "What happened?" she asked, her brow furrowing. Clara hesitated for a moment, the envelope still clutched in her hand. I found something," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. She leaned in closer, glancing around to ensure they were alone. "It's about Aurora's company. I think she's been stealing money." Anna raised an eyebrow. Her interest piqued. "What do you mean?" Clara opened the envelope and spread the documents across the table, her hands shaking. "These documents, they show everything. I don't know how I stumbled upon them, but it's all right here." She pointed to the highlighted sections, her voice trembling with urgency. If this gets out, it could ruin her. Anna's eyes widened as she scanned the pages. "Wow, this is big, Clara. You could expose her. You could dash, I know," Clara interrupted, her voice catching in her throat. "But what if this backfires? What if I lose my job? What if I put Sophia at risk?" Anna leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms as she contemplated the situation. "You have to weigh your options. This could be your chance to get back at her for what she did. She humiliated you in front of everyone. This is your opportunity to turn the tables." Clara felt a mix of anger and fear surging within her. The idea of revenge was intoxicating, but it was also frightening. I don't want to hurt anyone, Anna. I just want to make sure Sophia is taken care of." Anna nodded, her expression softening. "I get it, but think about this. If you expose her, you could ensure that she never treats anyone else the way she treated you. You could protect others from her cruelty. You have the power to change your life and the lives of others with this information." Clara's mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She thought of Sophia, of the mounting medical bills, of the constant struggle to provide for her. But could she really do this? Could she put herself in the line of fire, knowing the risks involved? "I don't know if I can," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes doing the right thing means taking a risk, Clara. You have to decide what matters most to you, revenge or a chance for a better life." Anna's words hung in the air, heavy with significance. As Clara sat there, the weight of Anna's words pressed down on her. She thought about the choices she had made throughout her life, the sacrifices she had endured for the sake of her daughter. What would Sophia think if she knew her mother had the chance to stand up for herself and chose to stay silent? The thought ignited a fire within her, a flicker of determination that she hadn't felt in a long time. Meanwhile, in her opulent office, Aurora sat at her desk, preparing for the upcoming shareholders meeting. She was surrounded by stacks of reports and financial statements, but her mind was elsewhere, occupied by the nagging feeling that something was off. She had noticed the whispers among her staff, felt the undercurrent of discontent growing, but she dismissed it. She was a powerful CEO, and no one could touch her, at least. That's what she believed. As she reviewed the numbers, a sudden thought struck her. What if someone was out to get her? The idea sent a shiver down her spine, but she quickly pushed it aside. She had worked too hard to let paranoia distract her from her goals. But deep down, the unease burrowed itself deeper into her psyche. Clara, on the other hand, was finding clarity amid the chaos. She thought of the little moments with Sophia, the laughter they shared, the dreams they had for a better future. She couldn't let fear hold her back any longer. "I'll do it," she finally said, her voice steady and resolute. "I'm going to expose her." Anna smiled, a glimmer of pride in her eyes. "You're stronger than you think, Clara. Just remember to be careful. This could change everything." With newfound determination, Clara stood up, the envelope still clutched tightly in her fingers. She had made her decision. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she was ready to fight for her dignity and her daughter's future. Aurora might have thought she was untouchable, but Clara was about to prove that even the mightiest could fall. As Clara walked away from the table, a sense of purpose surged within her. igniting a fire she never knew she had. The time for silence was over. Aurora Sinclair stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of her luxurious office, the skyline of New York City sprawling beneath her like a glittering sea of opportunity. The sun cast a golden hue on the glass buildings, reflecting her ambition and success. She brushed a strand of her meticulously styled hair behind her ear, her sharp eyes scanning the financial reports spread across the polished mahogany table. Numbers danced before her, each one a testament to her hard work and unyielding drive. Another record quarter, she muttered to herself, satisfaction curling her lips into a smile. This will silence those board members once and for all. She imagined the accolades, the praise that would flow from her superiors in the upcoming shareholders meeting. Meanwhile, in stark contrast, Clara Mendez was on her knees, scrubbing the floor of the same office, the faint scent of cleaning supplies mingling with the sterile air. As she wiped away the grime, her thoughts drifted to her daughter, Sophia, who lay in a hospital bed struggling with an illness that had turned their lives upside down. Clara's heart ached at the thought of her child's fragile state. "I just want you to be healthy, meu amor," she whispered under her breath, her voice barely audible over the hum of the vacuum cleaner. "Clara," Aurora's voice sliced through the air like a knife, sharp and commanding. "Can't you do anything without making such a mess?" The CEO's tone was laced with disdain as she glared at the woman who dared to exist in her presence. Clara's heart dropped as she registered the humiliation washing over her. She stood up slowly, her hands trembling slightly as she faced the onslaught of Aurora's irritation. "I'm sorry, Ms. Sinclair," Clara replied, keeping her voice steady despite the embarrassment heating her cheeks. "I'll clean it up right away. Just make sure it doesn't happen again," Aurora snapped, turning her back on Clara with a flick of her designer coat. The other employees in the room shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet Clara's eyes. They had all witnessed the interaction, and the silence felt thick with unspoken words of sympathy and awkwardness. Clara swallowed hard, her throat tight as she returned to her task. "It's just a job," she reminded herself, trying to dismiss the sting of Aurora's words. "I need this job." But as she continued to work, her thoughts spiraled into a dark place. Why did the powerful always feel the need to belittle those they deemed beneath them? The questions lingered in her mind, a painful reminder of her place in the world. After the confrontation, Clara sought refuge in the small bathroom down the hall. She leaned against the cool, tiled wall, taking deep breaths to steady her racing heart. "You can't let her get to you," she whispered, staring at her reflection in the mirror. But the humiliation lingered, an ugly mark on her pride. Wiping her eyes, she splashed cold water on her face, trying to wash away the shame. As she looked back at herself, she felt a flicker of determination. "I deserve respect," she murmured. "I'm not just a cleaner. I'm a mother. I'm a fighter." Returning to the office, Clara noticed something unusual on the corner of Aurora's desk. A brown envelope lay neglected, half hidden beneath a stack of reports. She hesitated, glancing around to ensure no one was watching. Curiosity tugged at her, and she approached the desk cautiously. What if it held something important? Perhaps it was a personal letter, or worse, confidential company documents? With a quick glance over her shoulder, she snatched the envelope and opened it. Inside, she found a series of financial statements and documents that made her heart race. As she scanned the pages, her breath hitched. These weren't just ordinary papers. They detailed a series of financial discrepancies and questionable transactions that pointed to a much larger scheme of fraud involving Aurora's company. "Oh my God," Clara whispered, her mind reeling. She could hardly believe what she was seeing. The implications were staggering. This was big, really big. She quickly folded the documents back into the envelope, her fingers trembling. This could change everything. But at what cost? Clara's thoughts raced as she left the office that evening. She needed to talk to someone about what she had discovered. She found Anna, her friend and fellow cleaner, sitting at the edge of a park bench during their break. "Anna," Clara called, her heart pounding. "You won't believe what I just found." Anna looked up, her brow furrowing with concern. "What is it?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." Clara took a deep breath, glancing around to ensure no one was eavesdropping. "I found this envelope in Aurora's office. It has documents, financial statements that show she's been committing fraud." Anna's eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you serious? That could be huge. What are you going to do with it?" "I don't know," Clara admitted, her voice trembling. I want to expose her. But what if it backfires? I could lose my job, and then what happens to Sophia?" Anna placed a reassuring hand on Clara's shoulder. "You deserve to be treated with respect, Clara. She humiliated you in front of everyone. Maybe this is your chance to take back some power. You could expose her and make her pay for what she did." Clara bit her lip, torn between the desire for revenge and the fear of the consequences. "I don't want to hurt anyone, Anna, but I can't just let this go. Not after how she treated me." "Then do something," Anna pressed, her eyes alight with enthusiasm. "You have the power to change things. Just think about your daughter. This could help you provide for her. You could get her the treatment she needs." The weight of Anna's words pressed down on Clara. She thought about Sophia, how she needed her mother to fight for her, to stand tall against the forces that threatened to crush them. But could she really go through with it? What if she lost everything? As the days dragged on, Aurora prepared for the upcoming shareholders' meeting, oblivious to the storm brewing around her. Her confidence had begun to wane as whispers of discontent spread through the office. She could feel the pressure building, but she brushed it off, focusing on her goals. "Everything will go as planned," she reassured herself, glancing at her reflection. "You're a force to be reckoned with, Aurora." But deep down, doubts gnawed at her. Mark, her boyfriend, had voiced concerns about her lack of empathy, how her ruthless ambition was alienating those around her. "You can't keep treating people like this," he had warned during a late-night conversation. "It'll come back to bite you." Aurora had rolled her eyes, dismissing his concerns. "I'm building an empire, Mark. I can't afford to be soft. You don't understand what it takes to run a company like this." Yet, as she reviewed the numbers, the pressures began to mount, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking on thin ice. In the early hours of the morning, Clara found herself back in the hospital, sitting by Sophia's bedside. The beeping of monitors filled the sterile room, a constant reminder of the fragility of life. Clara grasped her daughter's small hand, her heart aching at the sight of her pale face. "I'm doing everything I can for you, Maywa Moore," she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. "I promise I'll figure this out." But the truth was, Clara felt trapped. She had stumbled upon something monumental. Yet the fear of losing her job and the security it provided loomed over her like a dark cloud. What if Aurora found out? Would she retaliate? With a heavy heart, Clara made her decision. She needed to confront Aurora, to stand up for herself and for Sophia. No more hiding, no more silence. She had to be brave, not only for her daughter but for herself. As she left the hospital, her resolve hardened. The thought of exposing Aurora was daunting, but it was time to take a stand. "I'll do it," Clara whispered to herself as she walked through the bustling streets of New York, determination surging through her veins. "I'll find a way." Clara Mendez stood outside the hospital room, her heart pounding in her chest. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air, mingling with the faint scent of flowers from a nearby bouquet. She glanced at the colorful drawings taped to the wall, a testament to her daughter Sophia's vibrant spirit. Even in the face of illness, the bright colors seemed to mock Clara's current despair, reminding her of the life she wanted to provide for her daughter. Taking a deep breath, Clara pushed the door open and stepped inside. The sight of Sophia lying in the hospital bed, small and fragile, sent a wave of anguish through her. Sophia's hair, usually wild and curly, was matted against the pillow, and the 4 drip fed her precious fluids that kept her alive. Clara felt a lump in her throat. Her daughter's pale face was a stark reminder of the battles they faced daily. "Mama," Sophia's voice cracked as she turned her head, her eyes lighting up with a mixture of joy and pain. "You came!" Clara rushed to her side, kneeling down to hold Sophia's small hand in her own. "Of course, sweetheart. I wouldn't be anywhere else," she replied, forcing a smile through her tears. "How are you feeling today?" "Okay, I think. They gave me more medicine," Sophia said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to go home, Mama. I miss my bed and my toys." "I know, love. I miss our home too," Clara said, squeezing her daughter's hand tighter. "But we're going to make it through this. You're the strongest girl I know." As she spoke, Clara's mind drifted back to the envelope she had found at the office. The documents inside had revealed a fraudulent scheme that could bring down Aurora Sinclair's empire. The thought of using that information to secure a better future for Sophia crept back into her mind, gnawing at her conscience. Yet, the weight of the decision felt heavier than ever as she looked at her child, fighting for her life. "Mama?" Sophia's voice broke through her thoughts. "Are you okay? You look sad." Clara forced another smile, brushing away the tears that threatened to spill. "I'm just tired, sweetheart, but I promise I'm going to figure everything out. You just focus on getting better, okay?" Sophia nodded, but Clara could see the worry in her daughter's eyes. She wanted to shield her from the harsh realities of life, but the truth was unavoidable. They were running out of money, and the bills were piling up faster than she could manage. The treatments were expensive, and the prospect of losing her job only made matters worse. "Clara," a voice called from the doorway. It was Anna, her friend and fellow cleaner. Clara glanced back, her heart sinking at the sight of Anna's concerned expression. "Hey, I just wanted to check on you," Anna said softly, stepping inside the room. "I brought you some coffee. You look like you could use it." Clara accepted the cup with a grateful smile, but the warmth of the coffee could not chase away the chill of dread that clung to her. "Thanks, Anna. I really appreciate it." Anna glanced at Sophia, her expression softening. "Hi, Sophia. You're looking good today. Are you being a brave girl for your mama?" "Yeah," Sophia exclaimed, her eyes brightening momentarily. "I'm going to get better and go home soon." "That's the spirit," Anna encouraged, ruffling Sophia's hair gently. Then, her tone shifted as she turned to Clara, concern etched on her face. "Have you thought any more about, what you found?" Clara looked down at her coffee, the steam curling into the air like her turbulent thoughts. "I don't know, Anna. I keep going back and forth. I mean, it could change everything for us. But what if it backfires? What if I lose my job? What if—" Anna interrupted her. "Clara, listen. You have to think about Sophia. You need to do whatever it takes to help her. This could be your chance to take control of your life." "But at what cost?" Clara challenged, her voice rising slightly. "I don't want to be a villain. I don't want to hurt anyone, especially not Sophia. She's been through so much already." Anna sighed, crossing her arms. "I get it, but look at the situation. Aurora Sinclair is a powerful woman, and she doesn't care about people like us. She humiliated you, Clara. You deserve to stand up for yourself and for Sophia." The words resonated with Clara, but they also stirred up a storm of guilt within her. She wanted to be strong, to fight for her daughter's health and happiness, but the thought of stooping to deception weighed heavily on her conscience. "What if I go to the press?" Clara mused aloud, her brow furrowing. "What if I expose her? But then I risk everything. My job, my dignity." Anna leaned in closer, her voice a whisper. "Sometimes you have to take risks to change your life. Think about what this could mean for you and Sophia. You could finally get the help you need." Clara's heart raced at the thought. If she exposed Aurora, she could potentially bring down the entire operation. and the money from the scandal could help pay for Sophia's treatment. But the fear of the repercussions hung over her like a dark cloud. "I just don't want to be responsible for someone's ruin," Clara whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't want to become a monster." Anna reached out and placed a hand on Clara's shoulder. "You're not a monster. You're a mother trying to save her child. You have to do what feels right for you. Just think about it." Clara nodded, but her mind was racing. The internal battle raged on. The humanity in her soul fought against the desperation of her circumstances. After a moment of silence, Clara turned to Sophia, who was watching them with wide, innocent eyes. "Mama, are you going to be okay? You look really worried," she said, her voice small. Clara knelt beside her daughter, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "I'm okay, sweetheart. Just thinking about how I can make things better for us." "Maybe you can ask for help," Sophia suggested innocently. "You always tell me it's okay to ask for help when we need it." Clara felt a wave of warmth wash over her. "You're right, baby. I need to remember that it's okay to ask for help." As she spoke, a new resolve began to form inside her. Perhaps it wasn't about revenge, but rather about standing up for herself and her daughter. Maybe she could use the information she had not to ruin Aurora, but to find a way to negotiate for their future. "I have to go," Clara said suddenly, her heart racing. "I need to find a way to make this work for us." "Where are you going?" Anna asked, her eyes wide. I don't know yet," Clara replied, a spark of determination in her voice. "But I need to figure out how to make this right." With that, Clara kissed Sophia on the forehead, her heart heavy yet hopeful. She turned to Anna, who nodded in understanding. "I'll be here for you, whatever you decide." As Clara stepped out of the hospital, the weight of her decision loomed large. The world outside was bustling with life, and the noise felt almost overwhelming. But Clara felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. She was going to fight for her daughter. She was going to find a way to ensure Sophia had the future she deserved. And perhaps, just perhaps, she would find a way to do it without losing herself in the process. Clara sat on the edge of the bathroom sink, her hands trembling as she clutched the envelope that had the power to change everything. The fluorescent lights flickered above her, casting a cold glow that matched the chill of her resolve. Inside that envelope lay evidence of a financial fraud that could bring down Aurora Sinclair, the CEO who had so mercilessly humiliated her just days before. The weight of her discovery pressed down on her, and Clara fought to catch her breath, her mind racing with the implications of what she had found. "Are you okay?" Anna's voice broke through the haze, filled with concern. Clara had called her friend earlier in a panic, and Anna had rushed to the building, knowing how upset Clara had been after the incident with Aurora. Clara looked up, meeting Anna's gaze in the mirror. "I found something huge, but I don't know what to do with it," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. Anna stepped closer, her brow furrowing with interest. "What do you mean? What did you find?" Clara took a deep breath, her voice steadier now. "I found documents in Aurora's office. They show that she's been manipulating the company's financial reports. It's fraud, Anna. If I take it to the authorities or even the press, it could ruin her. And you're worried about doing that because..." Anna prompted, sensing Clara's hesitation. "Because if I expose her, I could lose my job. I could lose everything. And what if it doesn't change anything for me? What if this just makes things worse?" Clara's voice cracked, and tears threatened to spill over. Anna placed a comforting hand on Clara's shoulder. "You need to think about your daughter. What kind of life do you want for Sophia? This could be your chance to change everything." Clara nodded, but the fear gnawed at her. "But what if it backfires? What if I'm not strong enough to handle the fallout?" Anna squeezed Clara's shoulder. "You are stronger than you think. You fought for Sophia's health and well-being this whole time. This is just another fight. You can do this." As Clara pondered her friend's words, she was reminded of the countless nights spent in the hospital, listening to doctors explain her daughter's condition, each word heavy with the weight of her reality. She had fought for every bit of care Sophia received, navigating the labyrinth of insurance and medical bills. Now, here lay a chance to fight in a different arena, a chance to reclaim her dignity and perhaps even protect her daughter's future. Later that afternoon, Clara stood outside the building where the conference was to be held, her heart racing in her chest. She could see the cameras being set up, reporters milling about, their voices a buzzing hum that made her feel small. She took a deep breath, the envelope clutched tightly in her hand. Was she really going to do this? Was she truly ready to confront the woman who had made her life hell? Inside, Aurora sat in the green room, reviewing notes for her press conference. She exuded confidence, her designer suit tailored to perfection, her expression a mask of determination. But the tension in the air was palpable. Whispers of uncertainty rippled through her team as they prepared for the inevitable questions about the company's recent performance. Aurora's mind, however, was focused solely on making a grand impression. She had no idea the storm brewing just outside the doors. Clara took a step forward, her heels clicking against the polished floor. She was determined. As she moved through the throng of journalists, her heart thudded louder with each step. This was it. This was her moment. She had to do this not just for herself, but for every woman who had ever been belittled and oppressed. The conference began, and Aurora stood at the podium, her presence commanding attention. Thank you all for being here today. I am excited to share our vision for the future of Sinclair Industries, she began, her voice smooth and confident. But as she spoke, Clara felt a sense of urgency wash over her. The longer she waited, the more difficult it would be to act. As the questions started rolling in, Clara's resolve hardened. Ms. Sinclair, can you comment on the recent allegations regarding discrepancies in your financial reports? One reporter asked, the question hanging heavy in the air. Aurora's expression shifted slightly, but she maintained her composure. We are always committed to transparency in our operations. We take any allegations seriously and will address them appropriately, she replied, her tone dismissive. Clara's heart raced. This was it. She pushed through the crowd, her eyes locked on the stage, her mind swirling with thoughts of Sophia's fragile health, her dreams for a better life, and the humiliation she had endured. She could feel her friend Anna's words echoing in her mind as if they were a battle cry. Excuse me. Clara's voice rang out, cutting through the noise of the conference. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to her. Aurora's gaze snapped to Clara, surprise flickering across her features. What is the meaning of this? She asked, her voice dripping with disdain. Clara took a deep breath, steadying herself. I have something to say, something that needs to be heard. She stepped forward, clutching the envelope tightly. I found evidence of fraud in your company's financial documents, and I can't let you continue to deceive everyone. Gasps filled the room, and the murmurs of the reporters ignited like wildfire. Clara felt the weight of their stares, a mix of disbelief and intrigue. Aurora tightened her jaw, the veneer of control beginning to crack. What are you talking about? Aurora demanded, her voice rising with indignation. You don't know what you're saying. I do know, Clara retorted, her voice gaining strength. I found documents that prove you've been manipulating the numbers to make your company look more successful than it is. You've been lying to your investors, and I won't stand by while you continue to hurt others. The tension in the room shifted, the atmosphere charged with anticipation. Clara could see the wheels turning in Aurora's mind, the realization of the gravity of the situation dawning on her. Who do you think you are? Aurora shot back, but Clara could see the cracks in her armor. The facade of confidence was wavering, revealing a hint of fear. I'm someone tired of being pushed around. I'm a mother fighting for her daughter's future, Clara declared, her voice steady and clear. You think you can just humiliate people and get away with it? Not anymore. Aurora's eyes narrowed, but her voice faltered slightly as she addressed the reporters. This is absurd. This woman is just trying to create a spectacle. We're not going to entertain this nonsense." Clara's heart raced as she took another step forward, emboldened by the attention she was drawing. "You can call it nonsense, but I approve. I won't let you silence me. You've built your empire on the backs of people like me, and it's time for that to end." At that moment, Clara's courage surged. She raised the envelope, and the cameras flashed as they captured the intensity of the moment. "I have documents that show the truth about your fraud, your arrogance, and how you treat those beneath you, and I'm ready to share them with the world." The murmurs grew louder, reporters whispering among themselves, intrigued by the drama unfolding before them. Aurora's expression shifted from indignation to a mix of confusion and anger. Clara could sense the tide turning. The journalists were hungry for a story, and she had just handed them the most sensational one. "Get her out of here," Aurora shouted, her voice laced with panic. But Clara stood her ground, her heart pounding in her chest. "No," she shouted back, her determination unwavering. "I won't be silenced. Not anymore." As the tension escalated, Clara felt a rush of adrenaline. She had stepped out of the shadows, and the world was watching. In that moment, she knew she had chosen a path toward reclaiming her dignity, and she was no longer afraid. The room buzzed with energy, and Clara could feel the eyes of the reporters on her, waiting for the next move. She had become the center of attention, the underdog ready to take down the giant. Whatever happened next, she was ready to face it, ready to unveil the truth that had been buried beneath layers of deceit. The atmosphere in the conference room was electric, a charged tension hanging in the air as journalists jostled for position, their cameras ready to capture every word, every expression. Aurora Sinclair stood at the podium, her confidence starting to wane as murmurs of discontent rippled through the crowd. The room was filled with sharp suits and eager faces, all waiting for the CEO to address the growing rumors surrounding her company. With a composed demeanor, she took a deep breath, adjusting her blazer. "Thank you all for coming today. I'm here to assure you that our company is stronger than ever, and we remain committed to our shareholders and our mission." Aurora began, her voice steady, but betraying a hint of unease. She could feel the weight of their scrutiny pressing down on her, a sensation she had hardly ever experienced. It was then that the door swung open, and Clara Mendez stepped into the room. Her heart raced as she clutched the envelope tightly, the documents inside, feeling heavier than lead. She hesitated for a moment in the doorway, feeling the eyes of the crowd turn towards her. Clara had never imagined that she would find herself in such a place, surrounded by powerful figures in their tailored suits. But the memory of Aurora's harsh words echoed in her mind, spurring her forward. "Aurora Sinclair, I have something important to say," Clara called out, her voice cutting through the murmurs like a knife. A wave of disbelief washed over the crowd, and Aurora's expression shifted from one of poise to shock as she recognized the woman who had been beneath her contempt. "Clara, what are you doing here?" Aurora's voice was a mix of irritation and confusion, her commanding presence momentarily shaken. "I found something," Clara said, stepping forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "Something that you need to hear." She raised the envelope, her hands trembling slightly. The room fell silent, the tension palpable as everyone waited for Clara to continue. "What makes you think you can just walk in here and disrupt this meeting?" Aurora shot back, her bravado returning as she tried to regain control of the situation. "This is a professional environment, and you have no place here." Clara took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage she had. "You humiliated me in front of everyone, Aurora. You made me feel like I was nothing. But I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to tell the truth." She held up the envelope, her voice steadying. "Inside this envelope are documents that reveal the fraud happening in your company." A gasp traveled through the room, whispers erupting as the journalists exchanged incredulous looks. Aurora's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "You can't be serious," she said, attempting to brush off the claim. "You think you can waltz in here and make accusations?" "I'm not making accusations. I'm providing evidence, Clara insisted, her voice rising with determination. You need to listen to me. The people you surround yourself with may be too afraid to speak up, but I'm not afraid anymore. I won't let you continue to harm others, and I won't let you hide behind your power. Aurora glared at Clara, her mind racing, desperately trying to regain her composure. She had spent years building her empire, and the thought of it crumbling at the hands of someone she had so easily dismissed was infuriating. You don't know what you're talking about, she retorted, her voice sharp. You're just a cleaner. What do you know about running a business or the complexities of finance? I know enough to recognize when someone is taking advantage of others, Clara shot back, her voice unwavering. I've seen the way you treat your employees, the way you disregard their hard work. You think you're untouchable, but you're not. The murmurs in the room grew louder, the journalists leaning in, eager to capture every moment. Aurora could feel the walls closing in around her. You're making a huge mistake if you think anyone here is going to believe you over me, she stated, her voice shaky but defiant. Clara took a step closer to the podium, her eyes locked onto Aurora's. I don't care if they believe me or not. What I care about is the truth. You may have power, but I have the truth on my side. And today, I'm not backing down. The air in the room was thick with tension, the audience captivated by the unexpected confrontation. Aurora's mind raced as she considered her next move, knowing that every second mattered. You really think this is the way to handle things? By making a scene and dragging my name through the mud? She tried to regain some of her authority, but the desperation in her voice was evident. Clara's resolve only strengthened. You brought this on yourself, Aurora. You think you can just walk over people without consequences? I'm not afraid of you anymore. I refuse to be silent. With that, Clara pulled the documents from the envelope and began to read aloud, the key points detailing the fraudulent activities, her voice unwavering as she articulated the betrayal and deception. On page 3, it shows how you've been manipulating funds to cover up losses while your employees struggle to make ends meet, she continued, her heart racing but her determination unyielding. This isn't just about numbers. This is about lives, and you've been playing with them like they're nothing. Aurora's face turned pale as the reality of the situation began to sink in. The crowd was no longer on her side. The journalists were scribbling notes, their cameras capturing the unfolding drama. You're just a janitor, Clara. What do you know about finance? She spat, trying to regain some semblance of control. I know enough to see through your lies, Clara retorted, her voice rising above the chaos. People are suffering because of your greed, and I refuse to let that continue. You think you can silence me, but you can't. I will fight for what's right, and I will not be ignored any longer. The room erupted in chaos as journalists shouted questions, eager to get a soundbite from either Aurora or Clara. Aurora, realizing she was losing control of the narrative, felt panic rise within her. The carefully crafted image she had maintained for years was crumbling with each word Clara spoke. Ladies and gentlemen, Aurora finally managed to say, her voice louder than the clamoring crowd. This is outrageous. Clara is nothing but a disgruntled employee trying to ruin my reputation. You can't believe her over me. But Clara, her courage bolstered by the energy in the room, refused to back down. It's not just my word against yours, Aurora. This is about the lives you've destroyed and the people who trusted you. They deserve to know the truth, and I won't stop until they get it. The tension hung thick in the air, and Aurora felt the pressure mounting. She glanced at her PR team, who looked equally alarmed. This was not how the meeting was supposed to go. She was supposed to reassure her investors, not stand on the brink of public humiliation. Clara, you're making a mistake, Aurora said, her voice low and dangerous, as she attempted to intimidate. You're jeopardizing your future over a moment of anger. Clara took a deep breath, her resolve unshaken. I'd rather risk my future than live in silence under your shadow. You've shown me who you really are, and I choose to fight back. As Clara's words reverberated through the room, Aurora felt her world spinning out of control. The truth was out, and there was no way to turn back. The journalists were snapping photos, capturing the raw emotion on Clara's face, the defiance in her stance, and the mounting panic in Aurora's eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," Clara said, her voice steady, "I urge you to look beyond the surface. This isn't just a corporate scandal. This is about ethics, accountability, and the lives impacted by greed. We deserve better." With that, Clara stepped back, letting the weight of her words settle in the room. Aurora stood frozen, her mind racing as the reality of her situation hit her like a tidal wave. The facade she had built was crumbling, and for the first time, she felt vulnerable, exposed, and utterly alone in front of a sea of faces. The air in the packed conference room was thick with tension, a palpable energy that hummed beneath the surface. Journalists and shareholders alike leaned forward in their seats, their pens poised, ready to capture the unfolding drama. Aurora Sinclair, the formidable CEO known for her steely demeanor, stood at the podium, her perfectly manicured hands gripping the edges as if they were a lifeline. Her heart raced, not from the thrill of the spotlight, but from the suffocating pressure that had been building all morning, like a storm cloud ready to burst. "Thank you for being here today," Aurora began, her voice steady despite the brewing chaos. "We are excited to share our growth projections and new initiatives that will propel our company into the next quarter." But as she spoke, her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, spiraling back to the humiliating encounter with Clara Mendez, the cleaning lady who had dared to cross her path. The incident had been a mere blip in Aurora's world, a fleeting annoyance. But now, it loomed larger than life, casting a shadow over her carefully curated image. The whispers of scandal had begun swirling, and she felt the sharp edges of paranoia nipping at her heels. As she detailed the company's successes, a commotion at the back of the room drew her attention. Clara, her face set in determination, stepped through the doorway, holding a stack of papers. The crowd parted, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. Aurora's breath caught in her throat. Clara's presence was unexpected, yet it filled the room with an electric anticipation. The journalists shifted in their seats, eyes darting between the two women, sensing the impending confrontation. "Excuse me, Miss Sinclair," Clara called out, her voice breaking through the corporate jargon like a lightning bolt. "I need to speak." Aurora felt her heart sink. The room held its breath. Every eye now focused on Clara, who strode forward with purpose, clutching the documents tightly against her chest. The murmurs of the crowd crescendoed into a chorus of curiosity and disbelief. Aurora's mind raced as she struggled to maintain her composure. This was not how this day was supposed to unfold. "Clara, this isn't the time," Aurora began, but Clara cut her off, her eyes blazing with a fire that Aurora had never seen before. "No, Aurora, this is exactly the time." Clara's voice was steady, resolute. "You can't just walk all over people without consequences." Aurora's jaw tightened, her instincts screaming at her to regain control of the situation. "You're out of line. This is a professional setting, professional?" Clara scoffed, her voice rising above the murmurs. "You think this is professional? Treating people like they don't matter? Like they're nothing?" The crowd shifted, the atmosphere thickening with tension as Clara laid bare the truth of Aurora's arrogance. Aurora's heart raced, a mixture of anger and fear surging through her veins. She could feel the walls closing in, the weight of her decisions pressing down on her like a vice. "Clara, please," Aurora said, her voice lowered, a hint of desperation creeping into her tone. "We can discuss this later." "No, we can't." Clara took a step closer to the podium, her eyes locked onto Aurora's. "I found something you're not going to get away with." Aurora's stomach churned. She had felt the tremors of impending doom since Clara had discovered the incriminating documents. "What are you talking about?" she asked, feigning ignorance, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. Clara raised the papers, her hands trembling slightly as she held them aloft. This is proof of the financial fraud happening in your company. You think you can humiliate me and get away with it? No, not anymore. Gasps echoed through the room, and Aurora's face paled. The murmurs grew louder, a cacophony of disbelief and intrigue. She felt exposed, every secret and lie threatening to unravel in front of her employees, her investors, and the press. "Clara, this is a serious accusation," Aurora said, her voice wavering as she tried to regain her footing. "You need to understand the gravity of what you're doing." "Gravity?" Clara echoed, her voice rising with passion. "You've had no idea what gravity feels like while you've been sitting up there on your throne. I've watched my daughter suffer because of your greed. Do you even know what it's like to fight for someone you love?" Aurora's heart twisted at Clara's words. A part of her wanted to recoil, to dismiss Clara as nothing more than a disgruntled employee. Yet, another part of her recognized the truth in Clara's pain. It was a truth she had, long since buried beneath layers of ambition and wealth. "Clara, Aurora began, but Clara wasn't finished. "I'm not here to listen to your excuses," Clara interrupted, her voice steady and fierce. "I'm here to expose the truth. You may have power and money, but I have something you've forgotten: integrity." The crowd murmured again, a mixture of shock and admiration for Clara's courage. Aurora's thoughts raced. She had spent years building her empire, and now, in a matter of moments, it was all at risk of crumbling. The whispers of discontent had already begun to surface, and Clara's revelation felt like the final nail in the coffin. "Are you really going to stand there and let your ego blind you?" Clara pressed, stepping closer, her voice ringing with conviction. "You need to own up to what you've done, not just to me, but to everyone you've hurt along the way." Aurora felt the tide of the room shift. The cameras were rolling. Every word was being recorded. She wrestled with her emotions, the weight of her actions crashing down on her. She had spent so long building a fortress around herself, but now that fortress felt more like a prison. Taking a deep breath, Aurora stepped away from the podium, her heart pounding against her chest. She felt vulnerable, exposed, but there was something liberating about it too. The facade of the invincible CEO was crumbling, and perhaps, just perhaps, it was time to face the truth. "Clara," she began, her voice softer now, "I've made mistakes. I've treated people like they don't matter, and I've let my ambition blind me to the consequences of my actions." The room fell silent as everyone held their breath, waiting for Aurora to continue. Clara's expression softened slightly, the fire in her eyes dimming as she listened intently. "I've always believed that strength came from power and success," Aurora admitted, her voice trembling with emotion. "But I see now that true strength comes from humility and compassion. I've lost sight of that." Clara's expression shifted, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. "Are you really saying this?" "Yes," Aurora said, a sense of resolve filling her voice. "I'm saying that I want to change. I want to make things right. I want to help you, your daughter, and anyone else I've hurt along the way." The audience remained silent, stunned by the unexpected turn of events. Aurora's vulnerability was disarming, and Clara stood there, grappling with a mixture of disbelief and hope. "I know it won't be easy to earn your trust back," Aurora continued, "but I want to try. I want to do better. I want to be better." For a moment, it felt as though the world had stopped spinning. Aurora's admission hung in the air, a fragile thread of possibility that connected the two women standing at opposite ends of the corporate battlefield. Clara's heart raced as she processed Aurora's words. Could this truly be a turning point? As the silence stretched on, Aurora took a step closer, her eyes searching Clara's for understanding. "I'm sorry for how I treated you. You deserve better than what I gave you." Clara's heart swelled with conflicting emotions. The pain of humiliation still lingered, but there was something about Aurora's sincerity that struck a chord within her. "You really mean that?" Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I do," Aurora replied, her tone earnest. "I want to change, not just for myself, but for others who have been in your position. I want to be a part of the solution, not the problem." The crowd was still, awaiting Clara's response, and for a fleeting moment, the tension in the air began to dissipate. Clara felt the weight of her own struggles pressing down on her, the fight for dignity and survival for her daughter. Yet, was it possible to forgive? Could she accept Aurora's apology and allow for a new beginning? "Maybe," Clara said slowly, her voice steady. "Maybe you can start by showing me that you really mean it. Actions speak louder than words, after all." Aurora nodded, her heart pounding with hope, aware that this moment could be the catalyst for change for both of them. The audience erupted into a flurry of whispers, the tension shifting to curiosity as they absorbed the raw humanity of the moment unfolding before them. "Let's move forward," Aurora said, her voice filled with a new sense of purpose. "Together." As Clara looked into Aurora's eyes, she saw a flicker of sincerity, a chance for redemption. It was a small step, but perhaps it was the beginning of something transformative for both women. The room buzzed with the energy of possibility as the two stood united, ready to face the challenges ahead. No longer adversaries, but two souls seeking a better path. Clara stood at the back of the crowded press conference room, her heart pounding in her chest. The air was thick with tension as reporters jostled for position, their cameras flashing and microphones thrust forward. She could feel the weight of the documents in her hand, the evidence of fraud that could shatter Aurora Sinclair's empire, and at the same time, the remnants of humiliation she had endured just hours earlier. Watching Aurora at the podium, Clara felt a mix of anger and sympathy. The CEO, once so untouchable in her pristine power suit, now looked vulnerable, her carefully crafted facade cracking under the pressure. Aurora was being bombarded with questions about the allegations swirling around her company, her face a mask of defiance that slowly began to falter. Clara's fingers trembled as she gripped the papers tighter, the decision she had made burning in her mind. "Aurora, can you confirm the rumors about financial discrepancies in your latest quarter?" A reporter shouted, his voice slicing through the murmurs of the crowd. "I can assure you," Aurora's voice rang out, although it lacked the usual confidence. "These rumors are unfounded. We have always operated with integrity, Dash." But before she could finish, Clara took a deep breath and stepped forward, her heart racing. The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward her. She felt exposed under the spotlight, but there was no turning back now. "I have something to say," she declared, her voice trembling yet resolute. Aurora's eyes widened in shock as she recognized Clara. "What are you doing here?" she snapped, the defensiveness returning to her tone. Clara raised the documents high, her voice steadying. "I'm here to tell the truth, Aurora. The truth about your company and how you treat people like me." Gasps echoed through the room, and the reporters leaned in closer, eager to capture the unfolding drama. Clara felt a rush of adrenaline as she continued. "I found this envelope in your office, and it contains evidence of your fraudulent activities. The numbers don't add up. You've been lying, and it's time for the world to know." Aurora's face turned pale, the bravado evaporating. "You don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But the falter in her tone was undeniable. "No," Clara pressed, her heart racing with each word. "You think you can treat people like trash and walk away unscathed? You humiliated me, but I won't let you do the same to anyone else." The reporters buzzed with excitement, their pens flying across notepads, capturing every word. Clara felt a surge of empowerment, reclaiming the narrative that had been stripped from her. "You may have all the power, but I have the truth," she said, her voice rising. "And the truth will always come out." Aurora's expression shifted from shock to fury. "You think this will solve anything? You're just a janitor. What do you know about business?" Clara's heart sank at the reminder of her status, but she refused to back down. "I may be a janitor, but I have a heart, and I care about the people affected by your greed. I care about my daughter's health, something you've never cared about. Your empire is built on the backs of people like me." The silence was deafening, the tension palpable as Aurora struggled to regain her composure. "You don't understand the complexities of running a business," she shot back, but her words were losing their bite. "Maybe I don't," Clara replied, her voice firm. "But I understand right from wrong, and what you're doing is wrong." The atmosphere in the room shifted as reporters began to murmur among themselves, sensing the shift in power. Aurora's carefully constructed world was beginning to crumble, exposed by the very woman she had belittled. Clara continued, her resolve strengthening. "You think you can just sweep everything under the rug? I won't let that happen. I'm tired of being pushed around. You've made my life a nightmare, and now it's time for you to face the consequences." Aurora's eyes narrowed, a flicker of something unrecognizable crossing her face. Was it fear? Regret? Clara couldn't tell, but she pressed on. "I'm not here to destroy you for the sake of destruction. I'm here to stand up for myself and for all the people you've harmed. It's time for you to realize that your actions have consequences." The room erupted into chaos, reporters shouting questions at Aurora, demanding answers. Clara felt a rush of exhilaration, the weight of her humiliation lifting as she stood her ground. "This is not just about me," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. "It's about accountability. It's about justice for everyone you've trampled on to get where you are." Aurora, cornered and desperate, finally spoke, her voice trembling. "You think this is about me? You have no idea what it takes to run a business like mine. The pressure, the sacrifices. Clara interrupted, incredulous. "You sacrifice people's dignity and lives for your own gain. You think that's acceptable?" The room grew quiet again, the weight of Clara's words hanging heavy in the air. Aurora's facade crumbled further, layers of arrogance stripped away, revealing a woman grappling with the reality of her actions. "I never meant to hurt anyone," Aurora stammered, her voice cracking. "I was just trying to succeed." Clara took a step closer, feeling a strange mix of compassion and anger. "Success doesn't have to come at the expense of others, Aurora. You can choose to be better. You can choose to change." Aurora's gaze fell to the floor, the fight leaving her. For the first time, Clara saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes, the realization that her empire was built on shaky ground. "I'm sorry," Aurora whispered, her words barely audible over the murmur of the crowd. "I'm so sorry for how I treated you." Clara paused, the unexpected apology catching her off guard. She had anticipated anger, defensiveness, but this was something different, a moment of honesty amid the chaos. "Sorry doesn't change the past," Clara replied, her heart still heavy with the pain of humiliation, but something shifted in her. "But it's a start. Maybe you can use this moment to become a better person." Aurora looked up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "What can I do?" she asked, the vulnerability now evident. "I want to make things right." Clara hesitated, caught off guard by the sincerity in Aurora's voice. "You can start by being honest with your employees, by treating them with respect. You can use your platform to help others, not just yourself." The reporters were silent, captivated by the unexpected turn of events. Aurora nodded slowly, as if absorbing Clara's words. "I will. I promise." Clara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "People deserve dignity, Aurora. You have the power to change lives for the better. Don't waste it." As Clara stepped back, she felt a strange sense of closure wash over her. The confrontation had been cathartic, but it was also a reminder of the journey ahead. She wouldn't forget the humiliation, but perhaps, just perhaps, there was a chance for growth for both of them. Aurora stood at the podium, her expression one of resolve. "I will take responsibility for my actions," she said, addressing the room with newfound sincerity. "I will do better. I promise." Clara turned to leave, her heart still racing but lighter. She had stood up for herself, and in doing so, had opened a door for both herself and Aurora. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. As she stepped out of the press room, she felt a sense of empowerment that she hadn't known before. In that moment, Clara understood that the journey to reclaim her dignity wasn't just about revenge. It was about transformation, hers and Aurora's. She was ready to embrace whatever came next. Months had passed since the tumultuous events of that fateful day at the press conference. The bustling streets of New York City seemed to pulse with renewed energy as spring breathed life into the concrete jungle. Clara Mendez stood at the entrance of a chic venue, the elegant facade embellished with flowers and twinkling lights, ready to host an event that had become deeply personal to her. She had spent the last few months transforming her life, and tonight was a celebration not just of her journey, but also of the women she sought to uplift. Clara adjusted her dress, a simple yet elegant piece that reflected her newfound confidence. She felt a flutter of nerves as she glanced at the crowd gathering inside. The charity event, Empowerment Through Adversity, was designed to raise funds for women facing challenges like those she had encountered. It was her way of giving back, of ensuring that others wouldn't have to suffer in silence as she once had. As she stepped inside, the warmth of the space enveloped her. The soft hum of conversations filled the air, punctuated by the clinking of glasses. Clara's heart swelled with pride as she observed the diverse group of women mothers, daughters, sisters, all sharing their stories and supporting one another. She was about to make a speech, her first as a leader, and the gravity of the moment was not lost on her. "Hey, Clara," a voice called out, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Anna, her dear friend and confidant, who had stood by her side through thick and thin. "You look amazing. Are you ready for this?" Clara smiled, grateful for Anna's unwavering support. "I think so. I just want to make sure I say the right things. This means so much to me." "You'll be great. Just speak from your heart," Anna encouraged, giving her a reassuring squeeze. As Clara prepared to take the stage, her eyes caught a glimpse of Aurora Sinclair entering the venue. The once imposing CEO had undergone a remarkable transformation, her demeanor softer, her attire more understated. Clara felt a mix of emotions. The woman who had once belittled her was now standing in solidarity with her cause. It was a testament to the changes that had occurred since that day at the press conference. The event commenced, and Clara took a deep breath as she stepped onto the stage, the spotlight warming her face. She looked out at the audience, a sea of faces eager to hear her story. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began, her voice steady and clear. "I stand before you not just as a survivor, but as a woman who has learned the power of resilience and the importance of community." She shared her journey, the struggle she had faced as a single mother caring for her ailing daughter, and how the humiliation she endured became the catalyst for her transformation. "When I found that envelope, it was more than just a discovery. It was a turning point in my life. I realized that our struggles can either break us or make us stronger, and I chose to rise." As she spoke, Clara could see the impact her words had on the audience. Tears glistened in the eyes of women who recognized their stories in hers. She continued, "Tonight, we gather not just to celebrate our victories, but to support one another. Each ticket purchased, every dollar raised, will go toward helping women like us, women who refuse to be silenced." The audience erupted in applause, and Clara felt a surge of hope wash over her. She was no longer just a cleaning lady. She was a voice for the voiceless. As the night progressed, Clara felt a sense of fulfillment. After her speech, she mingled with guests, receiving heartfelt compliments and sharing knowing looks with women who had once felt alone in their struggles. It was then that she noticed Aurora standing at the back of the room, her expression a mix of pride and humility. Clara approached her, feeling an unexpected warmth toward the woman who had once made her life so difficult. "Aurora," she said, her voice soft but steady, "thank you for coming. It means a lot to me." Aurora smiled, her eyes reflecting genuine admiration. "Clara, I've watched your journey unfold, and I'm in awe of your strength. You've inspired me to be better, not just in business, but as a person." Clara's heart softened. We all have our journeys, and it's never too late to change. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, two women from different worlds connected by their shared experiences. As the evening wore on, Aurora took the stage to speak. The audience was captivated by her vulnerability as she recounted her own journey of redemption. "I've learned that true leadership is not just about power, but about lifting others up," she stated, her voice steady. "I'm committed to using my resources to support women who are struggling in their own battles." The crowd responded with a standing ovation, and Clara felt a swell of pride for Aurora. The woman she had once seen as a symbol of everything wrong with the corporate world was now a beacon of hope. After the speeches concluded, Clara took a moment to step outside, needing a breath of fresh air to process the whirlwind of emotions. She leaned against the wall, her heart still racing from the adrenaline of the event. Just then, Aurora joined her, and they stood side by side, gazing out at the twinkling city lights. "Clara," Aurora said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I want to do more. I'm starting a non-profit organization to support women in need. I would love for you to be a part of it." Clara turned to face her, surprised. "Me? Why would you want my help?" "Because you understand the struggles we face. You're a survivor, and your perspective is invaluable. Together, we can make a difference," Aurora replied earnestly. Clara felt a warmth in her chest at the offer but hesitated. "I appreciate it, Aurora, but I need to think about it. This is a big commitment." "Of course," Aurora said, her voice gentle. "Just know that the door is always open. I want to help you, and I believe we can do great things together." As they stood in the cool night air, Clara's mind raced with the possibilities. The journey she had embarked on was just beginning, and the prospect of working alongside Aurora, transforming their shared experiences into something impactful, excited her. The night concluded with a surprising twist that Clara could have never anticipated. As the last guest departed, an elderly woman approached her, her demeanor regal yet warm. "Clara, dear, may I have a moment?" "Of course," Clara replied, intrigued. "I'm Helen Sinclair," the woman said, extending her hand. "Aurora's grandmother." Clara's eyes widened. "It's a pleasure to meet you. I've been following your story. You have a beautiful heart, and I wanted to personally thank you for the work you're doing," Helen said, her voice full of sincerity. "Thank you. That means a lot to me," Clara replied, touched. Helen paused, her gaze thoughtful. "There's something you should know. Your daughter, Sophia, she has a remarkable heritage. I believe she is the rightful heir to a family fortune that has been hidden away for far too long. Our family has a history intertwined with yours that goes back generations." Clara's mind raced as she processed the words. "What do you mean? Are you saying that?" "Yes," Helen nodded. "It's a long story, but I believe it's time for the truth to come to light. There is a legacy meant for her, and I would like to help you uncover it." Clara felt as if the ground beneath her shifted. All her struggles, her fight for dignity, were suddenly connected to something far greater than she could have imagined. I don't know what to say. Just think about it. Your journey has just begun, Clara, and it's leading you to places you never dreamed possible," Helen said, her eyes sparkling with hope. As Clara stood there, her heart racing with the weight of this revelation, she realized that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. She looked back at Aurora, who was speaking with a group of women, her face glowing with passion. Clara felt a wave of gratitude wash over her for the unexpected twists her life had taken. The night had started as a celebration of resilience, but had transformed into a promise of renewal, one that could reshape the very fabric of their lives. Clara Mendez was no longer just a survivor. She was on the cusp of a legacy, ready to embrace whatever came next.